Mr. President.
The Senator from Nevada.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to begin by thanking the two previous speakers for their comments and their dedication to their particular cause. My friend from Indiana knows that both of his amendments are something that I would have supported had given the opportunity to actually vote on them. But the important thing is this, Mr. President, is we're moving forward. The Senate is moving forward with a debate on a bipartisan proposal to responsibly extend the unemployment benefits. And I'm encouraged by our progress so far and hope that we can continue to work with our colleagues to pass this piece of legislation. So in speaking on this bill, I'd be remiss not to thank again my friend from Rhode Island for his tireless effort to help unemployed Americans by temporarily extending unemployment insurance benefits. I admire his dedication. I'm greatly pleased that we're here today to support a bipartisan effort to help all Americans keep American families on their feet in a very, very difficult economic climate. I also want to thank Senator Collins, Portman, Murkowski, and Kirk for their continued willingness to come to the table to craft a bill that would garner enough support to pass here in this Senate. I also, as I just mentioned, want to acknowledge the contributions of both Senator Coates and Senator Ayotte, who, though not co-sponsors of this particular version of the bill, they've been essential in these negotiations, as well as Senator Isaacson and Senator Hoeven, who've also been engaged in this matter in recent months. Mr. President, last December, federal unemployment insurance benefits were allowed to expire, leaving millions of job-seeking Americans wondering how they would cover their mortgage, pay their utilities, fill up their car with gas, put food on the table for their families. My constituents who write to me, who call my office, and the people I speak with when I'm home in Nevada have shared many heartbreaking stories with me. I've heard from individuals all across the spectrum, from every sector, from every industry. And I'd like to share one of those letters from Michael in Carson City, Nevada, who wrote to me several weeks ago. After Michael and his friend moved to Nevada from California just a few years ago, they needed unemployment insurance benefits to help them bridge the gap between jobs. Sometimes they had to visit the local food pantry to keep food on their table, but Michael kept looking for a job, and eventually he found some work as a substitute teacher. He also found another part-time job working nights and even weekends. Through perseverance, Michael ended up finding a full-time job, and now he and his wife and their young daughter are enjoying some financial stability that they didn't have just a few years ago. I think Michael's story is a great example of how valuable unemployment insurance is to American families who've fallen on some hard times. I thank Michael for taking the time to share that story with me, and I'm very glad that his family is doing well in Carson City. I have another letter from John from Henderson. John lost his job last April, been looking for work for nearly a year now. Unemployment insurance has helped him keep a roof over his head, also helped him keep the power on. John is doing everything he can to make ends meet while he continues to search for a job. But it's getting tougher and tougher to put food on the table and provide for his young family. Without any help, John and his family may lose their home. They've worried about where to go, and they're worried about what options that they have left. I have a stack of letters just like these, Nevadans sharing their individual experiences with me. These stories are why I'm here today and why I fought so hard to find a way to temporarily extend these benefits in a responsible way. These are real American families trying to make ends meet. They're people who want to get back to work, want to be self-sufficient, want to provide for their families. Without unemployment insurance, many of them would have lost their homes, been forced to search, and seek out additional government services. Unemployment insurance helps people before things go from bad to worse, and it can make and does mean a difference for millions of Americans. Last week, I spoke briefly on the need to extend these benefits, and I want to reiterate an important point that I think is often misunderstood. Unemployment insurance benefits go to unemployed individuals who are actively seeking employment. I share the desire of many of my colleagues and constituents to rein in out-of-control federal spending and reduce the dependence on federal aid. but I believe unemployment insurance is a critical safety net for American families, especially during periods of high unemployment like we're currently experiencing. Further, additional benefit tiers are only available to states that meet certain unemployment rate thresholds, meaning that the duration of benefits decreases as the state recovers. This ensures that job seekers in the hardest hit states have access to critical resources when they need it the most. Nowhere is this more apparent and important than in my home state of Nevada, which has the unfortunate distinction of carrying the nation's highest unemployment rate for nearly 5 years, nearly 14% unemployment at the highest. Nevada's current unemployment rate is at 8.5%, remains still one of the highest in the country, high above the national average and far from where we need to be as a state. And what concerns me even more is the fact that thousands of Nevadans have dropped out of the workforce entirely. People who lost their jobs, exhausted both their state and federal unemployment insurance benefits, and were still unable to find work in this tough economy. Nevada is now trending in the right direction, thanks to large part to the vision of our governor, Governor Sandoval. But again, we still have a long way to go. That's why we need to temporarily extend unemployment insurance benefits to give people of Nevada, Rhode Island, and many other states some financial certainty as our country economy recovers. And as we continue to push forward to restore our economy, we need these benefits, and they will naturally diminish. This brings me to another important point to highlight about this bill. This is a temporary extension of unemployment insurance benefits, 5 months to be exact. Temporary extensions of these programs during high periods of unemployment have found bipartisan support in the past, and I think they merit bipartisan support today. I agree that we should not indefinitely extend these programs, and I would also like to see additional reforms, and we should continue that discussion. I strongly agree with my colleagues on this side of the aisle that the key to our economic recovery is through the creation of new jobs. Under this administration, there are still 3 workers for every available job, leaving far too many qualified workers out of a job simply because there aren't enough opportunities available. My Republican colleagues, including Senators Hoeven, Thune, Lee, and many others, have introduced more than a dozen bills to spur job creation by reducing governmental burdens and making it easier for businesses to grow and create new jobs. Bills that will help reduce the need for unemployment insurance benefits, strengthen our economy, and improve the financial security of millions of Americans. I just hope that as we are debating this bill before us today, that we have the opportunity to debate and vote on these important job creation measures. Now, I know there are some questions regarding how state workforce agencies might administer retroactive benefits and enforce some of the new requirements provided in this bill. These concerns are not unreasonable. However, I firmly believe that not only can Congress work with states to overcome any of these challenges, but Congress has a responsibility to overcome these challenges. No bill is perfect, and the varying capabilities of state systems compound the difficulty of the task at hand. This isn't a new obstacle for Congress, though. Every person in this chamber is familiar with the challenges involved in finding a balance between federal and state laws, ensuring that what we do here in Washington isn't an undue burden back home. We deal with that problem every single day. Additionally, the Department of Labor has provided $345 million to states over the past 5 years to help states modernize their systems so that they're more responsive and efficient. So I know we can find a way to work with our state agencies to find a way to reduce the burden of administering these benefits. In fact, Department of Labor Secretary Thomas Perez wrote a letter last week in response to some of these very concerns and believes that the challenges are not, I repeat, not insurmountable. As a former Labor Secretary for Maryland and now Secretary of the U.S. Department of Labor, Mr. Perez has hands-on experience with the unemployment insurance at both the federal and state levels. In his letter, Senator Perez indicated that the Department of Labor already has guidance on how to administer retroactive benefits. This is not the first time that there has been a gap in UI extensions. And though this gap may be a little longer than usual, Secretary Perez states that, quote, "We are confident that we could successfully address these challenges again," unquote. It may also be difficult to implement measures in our UI system to determine whether or not someone is a millionaire. But I think most of us would agree that jobless millionaires and billionaires should not be receiving unemployment benefits. The limited resources we have to provide for this social safety net ought to be reserved to Americans and for Americans who need this help the most. Some state systems may not be responsible enough to get this done by the time these benefits expire again. I recognize that. But if we continue to provide a series of short-term extensions without any reforms, we will never fix the underlying issues. We've known for years that there are some well-off individuals abusing the UI system, and it's long past time that we do something about it. We should not be just content to extend federal programs. If we know there are inefficiencies, we need to do something to make these programs run more efficiently and effectively and ensure that hard-earned taxpayer dollars are used in a responsible fashion. Mr. President, I'm proud to have worked with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle on this legislation. Hasn't always been easy, but I thank my colleagues for their patience and their continued hard work to help the American people find some stability as they look to get back to work. I look forward to moving to this bill, passing it, working with the House to restore unemployment insurance benefits as we continue working to improve the health of the American economy. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.